Hello, everybody, and welcome to Karl's Coaching. We're glad you're here with Karl and Laura and Winston the Wander Dog. But for today, I have a special guest, Brad Hill. Brad is the executive director of Heart Connection. He has a few other hats, I'm sure.
Hey everybody.
And super glad that Brad's here. Before we get started, I just wanted to ask a question that was heavy on my mind is that as executive director, you ever kind of check yourself and say, I know as a pastor, there were times when I would hear that title, pastor, and I would think,
Oh yeah. You know, it's not. It doesn't feel overwhelming to me. Like there's a great deal of just honor, right?
Yeah.
Of I get to do this, right? And there's a lot of amazement. That's the word. That's a good word. Yeah, there's a lot of amazement, man. And how this all came about is an amazing story.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't looking for this. I was not is an amazing story.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't looking for this. I was not thinking this was this was not this was not the script.
Yeah.
But the best stories don't follow the script.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And, so yeah.
So maybe. Right.
You know.
Right.
And, so yeah.
So maybe we should. You tell me about a question that you have for people that you interview on your podcast, which is called the Dotcast with Brad Hill.
Yeah.
Right. And he said that you ask people what's their favorite music. And do you have a story that kind of goes along with that?
Yeah. So I'm interested. Actually, we haven't done it recently on the Dotcast, but when I first started doing the podcast or the Dotcast, I would have different folks in. You kind of find your group. I'm finding my group. Frankly, I just thought this would be fun. Let's try this, and maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. Let's just see what happens. Mm-hmm. And I do that with a lot, actually. That thought process is a lot. It's like, that'll be fun. Let's try this, and so one of the things I found is like that people, the music that people liked, the music that people liked, right? Like the music that they like is really interesting. Mm. So I remember having a conversation with a good friend, and she had walked through her own battle with breast cancer. She grew up in a very, very, very religious culture, very legalistic culture. Mm. And she said that her favorite, one of her favorite bands was Pink Floyd, and she loved The Wall. And I was like, that's so fascinating.
Yeah.
That you grow up in this incredibly, just religious culture. And I grew up in a very involved church, and youth group, every time the doors were open. I remember preaching for the first time. I was asked to speak at 16. I was 16 years old, and that Sunday nights were kind of like we had Sunday morning and Sunday night. Sunday nights was kind of like we had Sunday morning and Sunday night. Sunday nights was kind of like the minor leagues, right? This is where we find out if you're ready for the big leagues, right? Whatever that means. Yeah. And I'm preaching. I'm 16, and yet I was fully immersed in that, like fully engaged in that with my friend, one of my best friends at the time, and one of the albums that we used to listen to, and like we didn't tell people, at church, did, but we listened to still one of my favorite albums, an album called Throwing Copper by Live, and there's a song where he says, I've walked, like I know, he's like, I'm not going to let my soul be tortured. Right?
Right.
And I think music's fascinating because music gets past our watchful dragons.
Yeah.
Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, can you explain that a little bit? Yeah.
Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, can you explain that a little bit? I've heard you say that before, but...
Yeah, so C.S. Lewis, if I remember right, talks about that the things that get behind our watchful dragons, like the dragons that guard things in our heart that that we've learned to protect ourselves. If we've been hurt in a certain way, or like that, nothing's ever going to get into there, right? We develop watchful dragons, and that's where healing really is. That's the conundrum. And so when music gets past the watchful dragon of on my podcast, I asked them, like, what is your absolute like favorite music? What music? If I knew you listened to it, maybe I'd be surprised. And but that's all that growing up, man. I remember we went to. This is funny. I remember we went to state youth convention. I remember we went to state youth convention. Okay, I don't remember what year it was, and there was a group there called the Peters Brothers. Okay, at the state youth convention, and the Peters Brothers were big on this thing called backmasking. Were you familiar with this? Were big on this thing called backmasking. Were you familiar with this?
I don't think I've ever heard of that.
So backmasking was a really satanic. I mean, basically it was where Satan was putting subliminal messages in mainstream music, and if you played it backwards, you know what I'm talking about?
Now I know.
If you played it
if
you played it backwards, like you'd hear like Freddy's the Devil, Freddy's the Devil, and like the big one was like Hotel California by the Eagles, which is like, wow. And yeah, dude, I loved Throwing Copper by Live. I love Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 by oh crap, I can't. They're man, Guns N' Roses. Man, it's like 40 of us. We go to this, convention, and it's like, oh, that's right, rock music's like Satan is sneakily putting these messages in our freaking brains.
Yeah.
And we come back, and that night, Sunday night, we get back, and we have this huge bonfire where we just burn all of our.
Yeah.
I was like, and I understand. I don't blame anybody actually.
Right.
But I think back, it's like, man, we just burned a lot of money. Like that's some really good stuff, man. And so anyway, that's what gets at is like, I'm more interested not in burning that, but in diving into what it is that speaks to you with that music. Right. Whatever it is, and I remember. I think it's so fascinating. My brother was like 4 years younger than me. Is that right? 3 years. And so small town Louisiana, like small town Northeast Louisiana, and there's a whole group of people that were listening to Tupac.
Yeah.
Like these country boys, right? Listening to Tupac, and that's so fascinating. I was like, wow. Like in hindsight, you're like, that is so fascinating.
Yeah.
But anyway, so
poetry you can't immediately understand.
Yep.
And I guess that's part of what gets below the surface and gets into.
Yep.
Right now I'm listening to the Avett Brothers, which you have some friends that love them too.
Yes.
But through this,
you need to have him on your podcast sometime, dude. Like there's a guy, a guy, Steve Connolly. He would love being on this, but yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they follow him around, man. Like they went. I think I was sharing this with you. They went to some kind of I don't know what it was, something in Cancun a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, love him.
And Laura, my wife would.
A couple years ago.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, love him.
And Laura, my wife would just kind of looked at me when I first started listening to them during this time and said, "Why are you listening to that kind of music? It wasn't my kind of music, but for some reason it spoke to my soul.
Yep.
And touched. For some reason it spoke to my soul.
Yep.
And touched me. So that's good.
Yeah.
So you are Executive Director of Heart Connection. Can you explain a little bit about what Heart Connection is? I have a hard time explaining Heart Connection.
Yeah.
Maybe you're a little better at it.
Yeah. To help people live their best life, and what we think, I believe, is involved in helping people live their best life is helping them live a heart-connected life. I think a lot of people are shutting down. I think a lot of people, I've been there. I have moments where I'm there, seasons, where they are, they're kind of zombieing through life, and the conversations that matter, I think people don't know how to have sometimes. And so a lot of what we do is we create spaces for them to really get connected to their heart, which for some people that seems very connected to their heart. which for some people that seems very ethereal, like heart connect. What's that mean?
Right.
And really what it is getting connected to the essence of who you are. A mutual friend, Paul Fitzgerald, who founded Heart Connection, like Dr. Paul Fitzgerald founded Heart Connection. He's the main trainer in the seminar, but you before you were something, like before you were born, who were you?
Yeah.
Right? But who were you before you knew who you were? That's the question to ask.
That's a
so good.
Question.
Yeah. And that's what I'm interested in getting at. That's what we do. And again, it's through immersive experiences. Through immersive experiences, the stuff we do, you don't go take notes. Okay, you've been through breakthrough. You don't go take notes. Okay, right. It is very experiential, and it's some of the hardest work I've ever done. And so it's continuing to grow from that, but also expanding that and just expanding what we do and creating more opportunities for people to live a heart-connected life and real community. Okay, so what that means is not necessarily that every time you come connect with someone at one of our spaces that you're gonna cry and do some deep soul searching. I mean, it just means you're gonna be authentic. Right. And it means you play well. Yeah, it means you have genuine conversation.
Yeah. You said you think we've shut down, and maybe as a society, can you talk a little bit more about that and maybe why? What are some things that led to that?
I think fear seems to rule the land. Okay, and if you don't have a greater think or believe that is the end of the story, but I don't believe that that's the end of the story. I do believe that love wins the day. And it's not just on a global scale. I think on a global scale, that is happening in ways we don't know. Maybe it's a level. You can choose love. Right? Yeah. And every day. And I think just helping people get that perspective. One of the things I think too, I know we talked about this before, Karl, but what fear I think does among a plethora of other things. What fear I think does among a plethora of other things is it helps us believe that we're better on our islands. Right? Right. That you just need to find a way. I need to find a way to fortify my island. To fortify my island. Right. Right? And that you're on your island over there. I've said this before. That's a guy that's like a spiritual mentor to me. Is a guy named Malcolm Smith, and Malcolm. I can't tell his story without a British accent, his deep British accent. But he was speaking when I was working at the church. He was speaking sometime, and he's like, I believe that. And he said, we have the belief that I'm on an island over here, and God's on an island over here, and this person's on an island over there, island, or I have to find a way to get to. And he's like, and he just pounds it like. Yeah, honestly, when he said this, if you'd have told me that electricity just came out of his being and just infected us all, I would have believed it because it's so impactful. But he says, you're on an island over here, and he's like, I'm here to tell you there are no damn islands. I'm here to tell you there are no damn islands. I'm like, ha! And I knew as soon as he said it, I knew it was true. Right. It was 2004, and I was working at a church. I didn't know the consequences of what that might mean, but I knew it was true. As soon as he said it, I was like, that's true. As soon as he said it, I was like, that's true. Yeah. I absolutely believe. I don't have to go to college for 4 years to try to discern if that's true. I know it is. Right. And but yeah, I just love real love. So perfect love casts out fear. Right. 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 There is no fear in love. Fear. Right. Right. Beloved, let us love one another, for love is from God. Everyone that loves is born of God and knows God. And that's weird. Right. Okay. Right. People don't know what to do with that one. Yeah. Knows him? Really? Yeah. I don't know. Everyone? Yeah. He that doesn't love doesn't know God. Yeah. he that doesn't love doesn't know God, because God is love.
Yeah.
And that, dude, that is a massive monkey wrench. Like, if you don't love, then you don't know God. Right?
Yeah.
Like, how could you?
Right.
Because God is love, and that's one of the things Malcolm's like, he doesn't have love, he is love. He is love. So anyway, but fear, fear would lead us to believe that that's the best way. And that's the only way, and that's the best, and there's no life on our islands.
Yeah.
So
maybe I can ask kind of a multiple question here, and you choose what you want to do with it. But just, does religion play into that fear thing? Questions running through my mind: is this fear really at the heart of a lot of our problems, or most of our problems, or maybe all of them?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I mean, I think, and I'm saying this just honestly, like, I'm someone, of course I'm afraid. It's hard. I'm not motivated by some capacity of fear. Okay?
Okay.
I don't think that's the way home. Right. Okay? I'm just saying it is what it is.
Yeah.
All right? And
so a lot of things begin there.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. And look, I think it's important to the real fear is. Okay? Yeah. So, like, if I say I'm afraid of snakes, I'm afraid of snakes. I don't like them. Yeah. Like, I grew up.
I agree with that.
Yes. Like, I grew up having a little lawn company when I was, in high school. And if I saw a snake in the grass, even though it's a garter snake, and they're at school. And if I saw a snake in the grass, even though it's a garter snake, and they're everywhere, and they're water moccasins in Louisiana, I'm mowing that sucker over, man. I don't care how nice he is for the culture. I just am, man. Like, you got to really do a number on me to convince me not to mow that sucker over. But if I say I'm afraid of snakes, that's not over. But if I say I'm afraid of snakes, that's not entirely true. Because the truth is, I'm afraid of what will happen if that snake bites me. Right. That's the truth. Right. And I think digging in and diving into what is the real fear here. Right. And if I live my life based on, okay, well, I can't, I'm afraid of this, so I have to do this. That ain't gonna work, man. I mean, it's an entire life of reaction. Right. If I ask the question, okay, what do I really want? Like, really want? Yeah. Guarantee you, fear is gonna show up. Right. One of the things that I'm sharing with people, just in coaching and in general, is if there's resistance, okay, if there's fear toward, like, even a disordered amount of fear, that's probably the way home. Yeah. I've never gone anywhere in my life I've never gone anywhere in my life in a choice that's been worth going to, that evolved my story in a way that worked, where fear wasn't something that was a major factor. And you gotta choose, you get to choose, I get to choose how much, you gotta choose, you get to choose, I get to choose how much energy we give to that. Right. If I let fear dictate my story. And part of it for me is I felt like for a lot of my life, frankly for a lot of high school, that was part of my story. Like, it's, family story, history, that's part of the story. So absolutely. So anyway, it just doesn't work, man. I mean, fear doesn't work. Right. I mean, you can scare the hell out of people and get them to pay you money. Right. That happens in church a little bit, right? Absolutely. You can't scare the hell out of them and get them to want to. That's right. Yeah. And that's where the heart stuff comes in. So, yeah. I heard a quote: "Someone convinced against his will is of the same opinion still." And you're going to have to scare them again and convince them again the next week, right? Yeah. I think one of the many things that's captivating about Jesus is he always compelled people's hearts. Yeah. Like, always. And that pissed some people off. Yeah. I mean, look, people killed him, okay? Right. Let's be honest. That ticked people off. They killed him, all right? Because they were afraid of what it might mean if At the end of the day, love's going to win.
Right.
So it would behoove you, if you're interested in being a part of a better story, to engage the dance of love.
Mm.
And so, yeah.
Yeah. Ministries can be found online at heartconnection.com, and that's, I said calm instead of calm. Heart Connection is with an X in it.
CONNEXION.com or .org. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And all the information is there. And,
Yep.
And Brad mentioned it briefly, but Laura and I,
Yep.
And Brad mentioned it briefly, but Laura and I, my wife, went through it about 15 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
And we still look back on it as one of the most important things we've ever done. So those that are listening that don't know about it, I encourage you to check into it, get your questions answered and things like that. I'm kind of curious also about, you spent some time as a pastor, right?
It's true. Yep.
And I also have done that for about 20 years. And now both of us find ourselves outside of that a little bit.
Yep.
And that's a big talk about, first of all, the good, the bad, and the ugly, or whatever you want to talk about. But just share whatever you feel like.
So, man, if you had that conversation with me 8 years now, 2018, 10 years ago, it would have been totally different.
Yeah.
Like my feeling or vibe would have been totally different. Honestly, more than anything, I'm just grateful for that season of my life, and more than anything, I'm just grateful for that season of my life, and giving grace to myself, giving grace to other people.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I realized is that even when I was in high school, like the desire to go, I was weighing, do I want to go to be in pastoral ministry, or do I want to be a sports broadcaster?
Yeah.
Those are the two roads, okay? And there were 4 colleges I was looking at. 2 of them, one of them offered a part scholarship, another one, a couple other ones actually. One was Millsaps College, another one was college in Belhaven College, Bible College in Oklahoma City. And so ultimately, at the place in my life, I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. So that's what I did. You get a major in pastoral ministry, get a minor in Bible. So I tell people, like, if pastors are not thoroughly trained in theology. Like, somebody's got a doctorate in theology, like, we can give it a row, right?
Yeah.
They've been deep dive into Greek, etc. But really, they're just these people just want to help people,
right?
And salesmen in some capacities, okay, and that's not a bad thing. And so did that, man. And I moved up to Olathe, Kansas, to work at a church. Really to start kind of a church plant within a church. I can laugh at the stuff we tried and did, but the heartbeat behind all of it was that we just really wanted to help people.
Yeah.
I really wanted to help people experience what I believed was God.
Right.
Right. And that's God.
Right.
Right. And that's always been true.
Right.
And during that time, man, my view of God changed dramatically.
Right.
And like the shift that happens is at least for me was dramatic. The shift that happens is at least for me was dramatic. Mm-hmm. And then there's a moment where I think if I were honest now, I didn't know how to be then, as I just felt trapped.
Yeah.
You kind of know, okay, well, if I really share what I'm really thinking,
right. Right.
I don't know if
I'm gonna have a job tomorrow.
Yeah, I can do a little math over here and realize that this person over here, but in hindsight, man, they were so gracious, and like it was a great spot. and I'm just grateful, man. And like I learned so much, and honestly too, man. Like, and I got let go of the job there in 2006. They probably should have fired me in like 2004, man.
Yeah.
They probably should have, man, because it just wasn't gonna work. Like that's not. No, it just wasn't gonna work. Like that's not that's not the story that I was finding myself in.
Right.
And it's one thing to say, this is where I'm at. This is where my story's taking me. This is where my heart's taking me. When you're like, okay, well, I might lose a few friends. Mm-hmm. It's a whole other thing when you kind of know that I could lose this, right? Mm-hmm. I could lose my income. I could lose, for me, it was, I have kind of leveraged my life on this. And so now what?
Right.
And to ask those questions and to do your best, do my best, not to know there's going to be a reactive season. There's going to be grieving. I've never knowingly been depressed. I've never knowingly been depressed. Okay.
Right.
Like, and there was definitely, in hindsight, like a 2-year season of depression. And I was like, oh man, like just giving myself grace for that, realizing that. I have so much empathy for friends. I've walked a ton of friends that have been in that same scenario. Mm-hmm. So much empathy for that. Yeah. And if I hadn't walked through it myself, I mean, what the heck do I have to say? Right? I mean, that's just theory.
Yeah.
But there's that's my story. Right. That's my story. And I'm saying that like there's still a great church, and there's so many. I'm experiencing some fresh communities popping up with some, unabashed. Say megaphones. That sounds a little aggressive. Say megaphones. That sounds a little aggressive, but we'll go with it.
Yeah.
For what the real message of Jesus is.
Right.
There's stuff that Jesus says is like, whoa. How come we didn't study that in Bible college?
Right,
you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
That seems to spit in the face of, I don't know, like, what do we do with that? So
do you think the church that we have right now, is a lot of it broken? Is it just messed up? Is it, when you were talking, I was thinking about the fact that, were we ever supposed to be as professional in the clergy as what has become?
Come on. I mean, dude, like, I love the verse, what does it profit a man if he gains the whole world? And the translation there is everything the world is offering.
Right.
And he forfeits his soul or who he essentially is.
Right.
And I think that's true for people. I think that's true for organizations. What is it? I think that's true for organizations. What is it? I think it's hard to estimate the impact when an organization forfeits their soul, when a person does.
Yeah.
But you feel it and you know it. It's their soul when a person does.
Yeah.
But you feel it and you know it.
Right.
Right? And you may only really know it when you're in the car by yourself. Right?
Right.
And, and you just BS'd, for 3 hours.
Right.
Right? You may only know it then. But, dude, I mean, blood pressure increase, starts feeling depressed,
Right.
anxious more, you know what I mean?
Right.
Body don't lie, dude.
Right.
And so, yes. But there's stuff that I see that makes me hopeful, man.
Yeah.
Because, one of the things, I did have about God, I don't care about any of this stuff, right? Mm. And I read a book that was a huge part of my journey, and kind of framing, really just helping me resonate. It's like, yeah, that's what I believe.
Yeah.
Like with what I'd come to understand about the Trinity and God, and yeah, but like that's just to be honest about where you're really at is important.
Yeah.
But ultimately, like, man, like Jesus, he's a smart cat.
Yeah.
Like, he says some really good stuff, man.
Yeah.
I mean, and more than that, like, people ask me, do you believe that Jesus is God? I was like, yeah. I mean, most days, yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Right.
But boy, like, one of the things is, if you just take the message of Jesus from a sociological perspective, I think it's fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what he says. Just take out what he says. Period. Like, don't listen. Don't read anything he says. Just look at the timeline of what happens and his the timeline of what happens and his relatively short. Actually, it was pretty normal, like, length of time back in those days. But you're still like, okay, well, this guy is starting to draw a large amount of crowds. It's predominantly people who feel like left out, down and out, disenfranchised, etc., not included. Like, he's drawing all these people. The folks in power, including especially the religious folks in power, like, initially were curious, then they felt threatened, then they get to the point where they're like, we have to kill him.
Right.
We have to kill this guy.
Right.
Okay, if that's the plot, all right, then what did he say?
Right.
What did he do that would lead them, people's tame views of stuff that Jesus said? You're like, oh, that ain't gonna get a dude killed.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, that ain't gonna get a cat killed.
Right.
Like, whatever he said in that culture, like, how did that create such a...
They didn't care about this.
Right, like, it's just fascinating. You're like, wow, what did he say? And you're like, I mean, they're this, like, they're going through the Roman government. So I think part of the crucifixion story, whatever you believe about that, I think we know he died. You can make a conversation about whether you believe he resurrected. There's a lot of people that, that's a lot of influence if he didn't. Okay,
right. That's right.
But I think it's fascinating that that they use a little known law, okay,
Mm-hmm.
because they don't. I mean, it's out. And if a religious leader, okay,
Mm-hmm.
because they don't. I mean, it's out. And if a religious leader just comes out and kills Jesus, well, come on. That's so obvious. We can't do that, even though we want to.
Right.
Right, we can't.
Right.
So they use this little known law, and they release a known terrorist against the state named Barabbas. A known terrorist.
Right.
Again, so they can crucify Jesus.
Right.
Right? Fascinating. I'm like, if you take, I can go off on this, Karl. Like, if you take all the triggers and the religious stuff and the history and how I feel like that story has been bastardized.
Right.
Okay? And you just take it for what it is. It's incredible.
Yeah.
You're like, wow.
I like your word compelling. It's very compelling.
Isn't it? Like, if you take away all the, some of the stuff I've experienced, you've experienced, you're like, wow, like, that's fascinating. What did he say?
Right.
So, anyway, fascinating. What did he say?
Right.
So, anyway.
That's right. And that fact that it's compelling, is it's compelling enough to cause people to change their lives. How we get it mixed up in religion and some of the stuff that we do in the profession in religion and some of the stuff that we do in the professionalness of being a pastor and things like that.
Yep. And I will say this too, like, I know so many pastors right now that are doing great jobs, man. Like, and I know you were, I was, like, and just wanting to do the right thing, like, just really wanting to, and trying to do it in this, frankly, this system that ensures they get paid.
That's right.
And I get it. I totally get it. And So.
Yeah. I recently read a book, not a book, but we watched the videos from it, and a friend of mine shared this with us. It's called The Cycle of Grace.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes from a study of, I think, missionaries in India.
Mm-hmm.
And they were trying to find out why these pastors were burning out.
Yep.
And pastors were burning out.
Yep.
And what they did is applied the way Jesus lived to that model. And of course, he preached sermons and had they call them inputs and outputs.
Yeah.
He had outputs where he preached sermons and did miracles and so on. He also had acceptance and sustenance. And sustenance would be, meditating, praying, spending time alone. But then that acceptance would be the thing of when God says, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I'm well pleased." Finding that acceptance. My question for you is, in your life, that gives you that acceptance and that sustenance, because the pastors that were burning out were the people on the output side. We were saying, how do my metrics look? What's my fruitfulness? What am I doing? The ones that were winning they spent time on that input side. Can you have anything? They spent time on that input side. Can you have anything in your life that you can speak to?
Yeah. So there's an exercise that we do in Breakthrough. I'm not getting into the details of it.
Okay.
But it's, you got to take care of yourself, right? And that's the essence of it. And right. And that's the essence of it. And I have historically not been great at that. Okay. And the way I would describe it is, you run through red lights enough in your life, you are going to pay for it.
Yeah.
Burnout's right there. And I've been there, dude. Like, I was definitely burnt out in the church I was working at in 2004, 5. So I just, burnout. What I tell people is there's a difference between being tired and being weary.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Like, it's an awesome day when you throw your energy all day and the stuff you really believe in.
Right.
And at the end of the day, you're like, holy crap, I'm exhausted. But
that was good.
Yes. Weary is a heart deal. Weary is when you are running deal. Weary is when you are running red lights, when you're giving your energy to stuff you do not believe in over and over and over and over again. And and just learning to take care of myself, okay? And realizing, I just tell you right now, like, I'm still working a full-time job. I'm doing executive. I just tell you right now, like, I'm still working a full-time job. I'm doing executive director stuff with Our Connection as well. On top of that, and I'm not doing as much coaching as I did before. It's saying no to a lot, dude. I'm saying no to a lot of stuff right now that I wouldn't have before. And that's still a process for me. I'm still growing to be present in my life, to be present in the things that matter most to me, primarily with my wife, right? To grow into that and to take care of myself, man. So that may be, I'm up early with my other job.
That scares some people. Talk about meditation, right?
Yes, but you do meditate.
That's right.
It may be on sports.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And it may be on Sunday morning.
Right.
Okay. You actually do.
Right.
So it's just what you fix. You actually do.
Right.
So it's just what you fix your mind on.
Right.
And just having a moment of, I think, silence and mindfulness. So one of the things I do, just very practical, okay, is 4 or 5 tomorrow morning. I'll be up at 4:15, driving to work. I don't turn the radio on in the car. About 7, 8, 10-minute drive. It's just quiet, right? And like, there's a resistance noise, like, not resistance, but there's this compellingness of noise. Like, have something.
Right.
It's like, man, I think it's a fascinating story in the Old Testament. Thought he was looking for God in the storm. God went in the storm, earthquake, fire, etc.
Right.
And I love the phrase, still small voice.
Right.
Because that's going to lead you home. I call it the whisper.
Yeah.
Like, what's the whisper telling you? You're not going to listen to the whisper if you don't find spaces. She's like, I'm so much learning this still.
Right.
And like, so much to learn in that arena.
Right.
I don't know if that makes sense, what you're asking.
I've had 3 people this week tell me, and one of them was my pastor, pulled me over aside after church today, and basic, today. And basic, it was a nice message I got from all of them, but it was mainly slow down.
Yes.
Just slow down.
Yeah.
And when you try to meditate, there's so many other voices inside, going on. So much noise in our life that maybe one of the main things is just to slow down enough to how can you hear that acceptance message if you've got many other messages in your mind.
And you gotta, I'd say this, and maybe emphasize it. You gotta know what matters to you.
Yeah.
Things that don't matter to you.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's okay. And in my experiences, I'm gonna say no to good things and disappoint good people.
Right.
Right? And if I don't have crystal clear what really matters to me, then that's going to throw me off. I will just be governed by smile buying.
Right.
Right? And that's a boy. Identity grabs and smile buys. You just sign up for burnout, man.
That's
like
right.
just put it down. Like what have we got? 2 years? If you're lucky, if you're really high capacity, 2 years.
Right.
So
right. We're certainly glad you said yes to coming up to visit with us, our house today.
Rockport, Missouri, man. Yeah. Never been here.
It's a nice little small town. We've been here a couple of years, and I'm excited about it. Running out of time already, believe it or not. But I want to leave with just kind of a conglomeration of questions. You can answer whatever one you want to.
Yep.
But one of the last things I was curious about is what books you're reading right now, and then maybe kind of finish up with anything else you'd want to say about Heart Connection. Anything you got coming up that would be exciting for you?
You know what? It's interesting you asked that. Like I'm reading a book by a guy named Richard Rohr about manhood right now, like rites of passage stuff, because we're brewing on creating some stuff in that arena. Look, if you don't know a guy named Bob Goff, become familiar with a guy named Bob Goff. I read 3/4 of his first book, Love Does, last night. I read a lot of articles and stuff on my phone or iPad. It's like just reading a book.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that guy he's just pure doing the right thing, man.
Right.
And I like dudes that know stuff and they don't need you to know they know stuff.
Right.
Right. They're just living their life and know they know stuff.
Right.
Right. They're just living their life and that's the two at the top of my list right now. I'll probably be done with Love Wins here soon.
Yeah.
But
he's got a new book coming out.
He does. Everything Always.
Yeah.
Everybody Always, actually.
Yeah.
Yes. He's love that guy. Not met him though.
They say he always answers his phone. So
I know. That's my gig, man. Usually I just call people. That's usually I was like, why would they want to talk to me? I'll just call them.
Yeah.
And as far as Heart Connection goes, we've got a huge event, anniversary gala, 20 years that over 4,200 people have been through breakthrough seminars.
Incredible.
Right? From 30 states. Okay?
Yeah.
6 countries.
Wow.
How about that? So we're going to massively celebrate. We got our friend, guys, he's a friend. He's, he's a friend. He's way more than that to me, but, William Paul Young, guy who wrote The Shack's going to be in.
Wow.
And it's going to be a freaking great party.
We're going to be there. We're excited about it. Yeah.
So, and there's some other trainings. You go to the website. If you're in a place where you feel stuck in your life, or stuck in whatever, or you feel like that there's work that is whispering for you to do, but you don't know where to do it, then we can help.
Yeah.
And it may just be that you are, you just like to grow. There's a lot of people that just their life's not in disarray. They just like to grow. Yeah, check out what we do. Check out the Heart Connection. Check out Breakthrough. There's a ton of other stuff that's on the menu down the road. So, yeah.
Yeah. If my opinion means anything, I personally recommended. Like I said, 15 years ago, and it's still personally recommended. Like I said, 15 years ago, and it's still probably the biggest thing that we point back to, and so that was a big deal. That changed a lot of things in our life, and still hard for me to explain it.
I don't know. Yeah.
But it was good, and it's still good, and it was good, and it's still good, and the people involved, Dr. Paul and Susanna, are still
we wouldn't be here if not for them.
They're still close friends, but Brad and the people in that community are stepping out and doing some creative things, and moving it forward, moving it into the 21st century, and some things like that. but it's always been good. It's always been solid, and now 20 years that you're celebrating of a work well done, and it's good. So check that out and be involved.
Everybody's welcome to come to Gala. If you go to the website www.heartconnexion.org, you can get tickets by clicking the link at the top. So
good job. So I guess that's about it for Karl and Laura and Winston, the Wonder Dog. Winston, you may have even been able to hear him trying to paw under the door. Wonder Dog, Winston, you may have even been able to hear him trying to paw under the door.
He did come in. I wonder if people know when that happened.
There's
maybe
a
we
point.
Cleverly worked through that.
but he loves people, and he can't hardly stay away. But we just I invite you to go to karlscoaching.k, of course, and probably if you're here you already know that. But check out all our stuff there. Follow us on Twitter, and really just Laura and I more and more are becoming more interested in conversations. We want to have real conversations. That I love Facebook. I love social media, and we need to have real conversations about like the stuff we talked about today, about why pastors are burning out, why churches aren't working like they should, and all those things. Gun violence. We just did a little bit on that. We need to have a lot more conversations about stuff like that. But we appreciate you